This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 116, about The Defenders, season 1, episode 4, Royal Dragon.
You think I'm holding back?
Welcome back to Defenders TV Podcast, fellow Defenders. We're here to talk about season 1, episode 4 of The Defenders, Royal Dragon. We've got names of episodes now. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, names of episodes.
It's quite nice to have them. I'm one of your hosts, Derek. Great to be back for this episode.
I'm one of your other hosts, John. Welcome back, fellow Defenders.
And ready at the group, I'm Chris.
We're all in the same room for the first time recording an episode of The Defenders.
I know, it's exciting.
I know.
Quite cool, isn't it?
2.5 years, all leading to this point.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not even sitting beside you, I'm on a couch.
Hi, Chris. I'm waving. He's on the other side of the room, waving.
I'm
Hi.
really lazy today. I'm like just sprawled out on a couch. The guys are sitting at the desk. I'm like, yeah.
That's quite cool. That's quite cool. It works. It works well. Well, welcome back. Really good to be back talking about this episode. We obviously have gone through our first week after The Defenders is released, as this episode is being released on Friday, the 25th of August. Got some great feedback, obviously, from our listeners who've been watching the episodes over the full weekend. But I was right in my estimate that everybody pretty much finished these 8 episodes within the first weekend. That's not how we cover our episodes, fellow Defenders. If you're joining us, the way we cover them is one episode at a time. We watch the episode, we record our podcast about it, and then we go on and chat about that individual episode without spoiling anything ahead. So don't worry, you're in safe hands. If you haven't been one of the ones that have had the opportunity to binge watch the full series, we're okay. We're not going to spoil anything going ahead.
Yes, if you've listened before to our coverage of any of the other Defenders individual series, then of course you'll be aware, and this is certainly for new listeners hopping on board, myself and Chris are controlled by our episode watching overlord Derek, so that we don't skip ahead.
I don't skip ahead either, just to clarify. I also don't watch the future episodes, but I think it's around time to get into the episode. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast over on Apple Podcasts. Go through our link at defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes, or just search for us on any good or hand-supporting podcast catcher by searching Defenders TV Podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you can get the episodes as they're released for the rest of the season.
And if you want to hear your own voice on the podcast, then of course you can leave any thoughts or discussions on the Defenders through our voicemail, which is on our website at defenderstvpodcast.com. Just click on the right-hand side tab and you can record up to 90 seconds. And of course, come on over and join us on our Facebook group, where of course the chit-chat has gone exponentially. I would say feedback could actually almost be an entirely standalone episode at this stage.
I love that.
So it's great to see so many people commenting on the Defenders series so far. But of course, come on over and join us on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV Podcast.
And of course, if you want to email us feedback, you can send us your feedback at feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. Of course, because who wants to do the old style writing when you can just put it on social? But if you are one of those people who like email, please send us one. And just a quick reminder, obviously, if you are sending us email feedback, please in the subject line, just tell us which episode you want to send feedback on, or if it's just about the whole series in general. So our ever-watching Derek, who does man the inbox, doesn't get spoiled by just clicking in and seeing some of your feedback.
Thank you, Chris.
I look out for you.
But on to our foursome, who get it together here. They really do. This is almost a bit like a stage play to an extent, all in a lovely lit Chinese restaurant, the Royal Dragon, Neon being its name. Really cool how it reflects as well the colour motifs of all of the individual Defenders.
Do we want to get the episode details? Derek, who directed and wrote this episode.
Yes, again, this episode is written by Marco Ramirez and Douglas Petrie. Doug and Marco are the showrunners for the show. We've mentioned them obviously in all the previous episodes, but really cool seeing that 4 episodes in, at least one of them has been involved in each of the episodes. It's quite a change for the Netflix series. You usually have a writer's room where it's moving around and there's kind of a guiding showrunner behind the scenes, but not normally given a writing credit for every episode. So you can definitely tell this is their show and they've been given free rein to run it. It's quite cool. And directing the episode is Phil Abram, coming back after his excellent episode of Luke Cage, the penultimate episode. He did Soliloquy of Chaos. I can never pronounce that first time.
Soliloquy.
That's it, Soliloquy of Chaos. He also directed 4 episodes of Daredevil, 2 episodes in each season. He did Dogs to a Gunfight and Bang in season 2 of Daredevil, and he did Cutman and Into the Ring in season 1 of Daredevil. So got a good amount of experience with these Defenders. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis?
Sure. From boardroom table to banqueting table, Jessica, Danny, Luke and Matt hide out in the Royal Dragon after their battle at Midland Circle Financial. Matt, trying to escape his life as the devil of Hell's Kitchen, is distrustful of the new allies. Jessica talks him into revealing his identity to the others. Danny proposes that to take down the Hand they should all work together, but the others turn down the offer. Chase leader Stick tracks the group to their location and reveals that New York will be lost if they don't band together. Jessica calls herself out as she just wants to solve her case. As the case gets weirder, however, she pays a visit to the architect's wife and finds that she's under the Hand's observation. Meanwhile, Alexandra persuades the final leader of the Hand, Murakami, to her cause. She tracks the Defenders to their shitty excuse for a hideout and crashes the party, bringing the Black Sky to a standoff with the new team. As they face off against each other, Jessica crashes the party as only Jessica knows how.
So guys, the biggest reveal in this whole episode, we've been saying the Chase wrong for about 2.5 years now.
That's true. That's true. I remember on one of our solo episodes, Chris, myself and you were talking about how they were pronouncing it, whether it was right or wrong. We had whether it was the cast or the chase. This is probably back in Daredevil season 1. I think it was with the reveal of Stone, I think, as one of the members of the chased. So quite interesting that I can't remember which one of us got it right and which was wrong. But I would say we've probably been pronouncing it alternate ways all the way through these seasons so far.
I'm staying with cast. I'm just putting that out there. American English is not English. It's Oxford English, people. Gentlemen, we speak the Queen's language. John, get in here with me on this.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it's a good job that we weren't calling it The Chase, because otherwise we would be referring to a TV3 game show that is on there with, obviously, a big quiz show. So, yeah, it's The Chase.
It's The Chased, yes.
Not The Chase.
Yes.
And not The Cast. Or Cast, the band from Liverpool. So, yeah, The Chased, we've got it down as The Chase. And, of course, as well, R.I.P. off-screen, it seems that even though we got a small glimpse of Stone, he's been nobbled by the Hand. He's completely been taken out off-screen.
Mm-hmm.
As we do hear from Stick that, they've all been wiped out.
I am
Yes.
last.
I do think that is one of my favourite scenes in this episode, where Iron Fist, who struggled with his position as the Iron Fist, Danny Rand, is realizing that the Chased are effectively his army, and then he says, "Oh, they're the ones that will help me in this fight," and is told by Stick, "Well, they're all dead, so it doesn't really matter." Poor Danny. But obviously, this is our spoiler-filled podcast. I hope we haven't ruined anything for you by talking about that before we said spoiler-filled. You should know by now that we're talking in depth about this episode. But the way we do it is by choosing our top 5 points from the episode and talking around all of our major moments that happened within the show. Some good, some bad. Hopefully, we'll cover off all of those points, and we may have a few notes to throw in towards the end. But let's kick off with, obviously, the start of the episode, the Chinese banquet. Is it shrimp or pork, gentlemen?
It's both.
John, do you want to take this point?
Yeah, we basically see here the 4 Defenders individually gradually kind of getting to know one another, really, as they lay low from the Hand after the boardroom punch up and fight there. I thought this was really good. As I just said before, this is almost kind of like you could almost have it as a stage play, you know, with the exception of of a few scenes with Jessica Jones and obviously with Alexandra, it really is just taking place in the Royal Dragon Chinese restaurant, and I think it's really cool. I love the colours that come from the neon lights and how they reflect at different times in some of the shots that are taken here. Whether it is Stick and Matt up against the window talking about Elektra briefly,
in the red corner,
where they're bathed in red, or even where, in say Luke and Jessica speaking to one another, and the shot is on Jessica and you've got the purpley blue behind her and the yellow behind Luke and so on. Like, it's a really great bit of shot setup and of course just production design as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just have this image that we're walking down the street going past all of the other restaurants going, nope, there's no red light bulb in that one. There's no yellow light bulb in that one, so we can't go into that one. It seems really specific. Each of the 4 areas in the room as they're sitting around the table seem to have the right colour right behind each of the characters. So it's like as if Danny went to, well, I'll sit over here where there's kind of a green background behind me. It's really cool though. I do love it. How many
and of course we have Danny, in order to, because I think the owner of the restaurant is just closing up, but in order that they can stay on in there hunkering down, waiting for the hand to kind of go by or whatever, that he buys 6 months worth of rent, and then of course about 4 of everything. Yeah, so really cool. Although I do suspect by the time they are finished with the Chinese Dragon, Danny Rand might probably need to pay a bit more than 6 months rent.
I think so.
But answer me this, guys. It really is a shitty hideout.
It's a terrible
hideout. There's windows, people can see in. Uh-huh. I'm like,
yeah.
They're probably, where was the warehouse, the alleyway? Kind of just running into a random apartment that doesn't have windows, or a big neon sign.
Yeah, it really is a pretty shitty hideout.
I do love the little gag at the start when they walk in and they close the door behind them, and the owner's asking why they're there, and they go, we just need the place for a while. Tell everybody you're closed. And he's like, I am closed. I just kicked out my customers. Nice little gag. And then Jessica gets to use her powers to push a huge trunk up in front of the door and block the doorway. But yes, there's quite a big open window right in the front of the place, which comes in useful towards the end of the episode, of course.
Yeah. Like, I think the thing I love here is that, we finally get to see them talking to one another. They've been fighting with one another in Midland Financial, but here we really get a sense of the individual characters and really what they're about and how they bounce off one another. Do they play well with friends? I think Matt is really suspicious of the others. He's got his identity issues, as well as as it progresses is kind of really concerned about the people who he cares about. He knows how the hand operates. He's been, along with Danny, one of the few defenders that's had any kind of contact with the hand before.
Yeah.
You've got Danny, who's just like excited that everyone is there, and he wants to give them food. He wants to share the food. He wants to get to know everyone, and ultimately is kind of the one suggesting that maybe they work together to get at the hand. Jessica just does not want to be there. I mean, she is just like, I am so over this. You guys are complete weirdos. And I just love that about her. I love how that really plays to her personality. And the interesting thing with Luke is that he kind of doesn't want to be there because, like Jessica, he can sympathize with her that she's just wanting to do her case, and he was just following a lead for the specific kind of case that he was looking at as well. But Luke is kind of, he's intrigued. He wants to know more. He really wants to know more, but he doesn't trust Matt, at all. Like, I think the fact that he wears a mask is not open. He has some kind of reservations about that, just because Luke is absolutely open about who he is and what he does in Harlem. So it's a really cool, it's a cool coming together, I think.
Yeah.
There was some nice jokes in this scene, at the beginning of this scene. There was some nice throughout it. And I suppose what really kind of gets interesting is the dynamic that they do set up within the first, 3 minutes of the episode, is that these guys are not a team. as Luke says in the trailer, I'm not looking for super friends. And I think that's something that we get to see in this, which is through necessity that these guys do need to kind of slowly thaw and become friends to a degree. Actually, that kind of leads me in the dark. Do you have one thing you want to talk about just at the intro of this? Because I wanted to jump on to the thawing, but if you want to talk about the intro.
Yeah, I really liked the fact that Jessica and Luke get a moment together, because they didn't really get one before. They bumped into each other in the hallway in the last episode, and to have the moment together where they're able to kind of refresh where they are now in their own situations. Obviously, Luke Cage was in the Jessica Jones first season, and she hasn't seen what he's gone through, so having him say to her, well, I've been to prison and I'm back out now, was quite cool to see that moment between the two of them. And Luke asks Jessica, how are you doing? And she goes, I'm okay right now. You know, basically, I'm the right side of the ground. That's about as good as she could say, you know. But nice little moment between them. And I also love that Jessica is the one that kind of talks Matt into revealing himself to the rest of them. That she's kind of going, well, I'm not that smart, and I've already worked out that you're Daredevil. Those other two guys over there are very close to Matt. You kind of need to do it, or else get out of here, is kind of the thing.
Yeah, a scarf or a mask really isn't a mask when you kind of come down to it.
Yeah.
A scarf with a mask with a bullet hole.
I like that he still knows how to tie that scarf around his head like he did in his first costume, the where he was just dressed in the black outfit. That's obviously how he got the way of tying that scarf around his head. It's quite cool. Chris, do you want to take point number 2? Yeah, things kind of thaw between the characters in
and this was what this episode was for me. This was the coming together moment or episode for them, if you want to call it that. Whereas the team becomes a team. You start seeing the origins of, for example, the Heroes for Hire.
Oh yes.
Like, you start to see Luke and Danny, the Power Man and Iron Fist, slowly become okay, we're not friends, but they're getting there. They start to enjoy each other's company.
Can I say cutest moment of the first 4 episodes is definitely in this moment here with Danny sharing food with Luke, where they're having that conversation, and Danny's kind of going, Luke's going, how can you still be hungry? And Danny says, well, it takes me a lot of food to rejuvenate my chi. And Luke gives him a bit of a laugh, and then they share the food, and Danny gives him the last bit of food, and then gets a little smile on his face when Luke takes it. It's just a proper cute moment where they've realised that they can become friends.
Their love is by sharing a dumpling. Luke has coffee. Danny says, do you want a dumpling?
Wow, I do not think Luke knew what he's getting into.
No, I think that's a very different situation.
I love the Heroes for Hire sharing a dumpling.
That's a great scene, great moment.
And then kind of the second part of this is, I suppose, Danny wanting to form this team, and to do that he must break down the barriers. Sound like a psychologist here. In order to become the team, you must break the barriers down between each of you, you know.
Yeah.
I thought this was great. This was the revealing moment. And again, we got the sarcastic. You get to see who each of them are. You get the energy, the eagerness from Danny.
Uh-huh.
You get Matt's grumbling, kind of stoic, I don't want to be here. You get Luke, who's like, I'm here for Harlem, that's it. I'm not here to make friends. And then, of course, the beautiful Miss Jones and her sarcastic, no.
Yeah,
You just literally, no, I'm not sharing, no, don't want to, no.
But we have Danny talking about the Hand and so on, and Jessica just goes, they call themselves the Hand? What are they really called? Like, and you know, are you on lithium is another thing. But it's just like, he's talking about himself as the sworn protector of Kunlun and the immortal Iron Fist. And I am absolutely sure Jessica thinks that she's probably had a lot to drink at this stage, even though she's not been on any whiskey whatsoever. Like, I really, it's really good how, as well, going around, Danny goes, we've got the bulletproof man, the blind ninja, and looking at Jessica, whatever you are, and she just goes, classy.
Aye.
You know, she's so good at bringing sort of just great sarcasm and wit to this foursome.
Absolutely, and you can really understand her point. Like she makes the point. I'm the first to admit when I'm out of my depth, and this is way over my threshold. Like she is a character who's been an investigator for her entire season. She's not someone that wants to go up against in a war or a battle for New York. This is not the type of thing that she would be involved in. She doesn't normally go after even groups of bad guys. It's generally has always been one-on-one or a few maybe people fighting against her in the past. So this is a very much out of her comfort zone, as we can see from the episode. So that's effectively why she walks. She goes, I'm just going to go off and solve my case. That's it.
One thing I agree with you on that is this is the standout performances by each of these actors, becoming their characters. To I can say, like they've done 13 episodes, or in Daredevil's case, 26.
Mm-hmm.
They got the insight, if you will, of what makes these characters tick. And for me, this, like Kristen Ritter's classy line, just the delivery of it, just fantastic. And then we, later on in the scene, which I don't want to get to too much, but we do get Luke, Alexandra talking to Luke, going, I don't think we've been formally introduced, and Luke turning around going, I'd like to keep it that way.
Uh-huh.
Like, these are the actors really bringing their characters to life. And I think I'm just kind of crushing on Kristen Ritter more and more as each episode goes along.
Yeah, like
We will have beautiful babies, by the way.
She's really good, and I think as well though, like with Daredevil, like he seems like the most grown up, and to an extent, even Jessica is as well, by understanding that really, yeah, she's out of her depth, as you said, Derek.
Yeah.
But like Daredevil here, you know, he knows the Hand, he knows what they're about, and like he's really trying to impress upon them that they don't have any clue. I mean, Danny has his youthful exuberance for going after them and his own motives, but he sees that as part of his, I suppose, his life, just because of being brought up in Kunlun and having so much taken away from him by the Hand. Whereas Daredevil has this real personal connection with them, just as much as Danny, maybe even more so, that we've seen through the series. And he's really trying to say, look, you don't know what you're getting into here. Yeah. They are going to rip your loved ones from you. And I mean, there's a bit of tension then that comes in between Danny and Daredevil over this point. You know, Danny really, even though it starts to thaw, it quickly moves back to being tense, because Danny's saying they've taken most from me, and you know, you don't know what you're talking about. And you know, Daredevil does a kid throwdown on Danny, really saying, you know, if you act less like a kid, you would be able to sort of understand the magnitude of this.
Yeah, because you got to remember, obviously, Matt has gone through a really traumatic moment in losing Elektra to the Hand as they killed her and she died in his arms. He doesn't call out to them that that's what happened. He doesn't call out to them that she's the one they've seen in Midland Circle Financial in that fight. But that's where Matt is at the moment. He's just effectively seen the woman that died in his arms come back to life and try to kill him 5 minutes before meeting up with this group of people. So yeah, of course he's going to be a little bit on shifting sands at the moment with them. And for them to go, well, let's take the fight to them, he probably just wants to clear his head a bit and get his thoughts in order. And they're all kind of throwing things at him about, you know, we want to know who you are, we want to know your identity, why aren't you Daredevil anymore? And he just kind of wants to step away from them. I like that about Matt.
Yeah, and of course, I suppose this brings us on to our third point then, where, of course, it's even harder for him to step away because Stick shows up, his previous mentor and trainer, of all his skills and fighting abilities that he has.
Yeah.
You know, with a great opening phrase, this is one shitty excuse for a hideout. You know, it is dumb things like this that will get you caught by the Hand as he smashes Danny's mobile phone. There's no airs or graces with Stick. It's really just straight down to business. Even the loss of a hand, he's still being an absolute dick when he greets them. And it's just a great introduction because we really do get much more about the Hand's origin here.
This was the moment of the episode for me over everything else. We get the history of the hand and who they are, what they are. And this is a really interesting take on... Well, okay, so this is not the hand of the comic books, and I'm fine with that. This is not the Chaste of the comic books. This is a lovely amalgamation, creation for this show. And it's interesting. We get the origin... Well, we don't see the origin. We are told the origin of the 5 fingers of the hand. Mm-hmm. They are members, we would assume high members of Kunlun. They are... Kunlun was interested in using channeling more and... How do they put it? Healing. But no, it was like learning more control or of the chi towards healing. And what we get that these guys, these 5 members are, no, we want to use this on ourselves to heal our bodies so that we can step towards immortality.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think Stick calls them 5 heretics specifically, so kind of showing that Stick is in full belief on the religious side of this thing. So in the past, we've kind of seen Stick talk about the Chaste as being up against the hand, but now we also see they are connected with Kunlun in this as well, that they are the protectors of Kunlun and do know about all of the teachings there. And when he goes back on the history, that it is that these are heretics. These are people that don't believe what the other members in Kunlun do believe.
Yeah, it's like Doctor Who, except it's the 5 heretical masters from Doctor Who. They want to regenerate over and over again. Doctor Who may actually be one of the fingers of the hand.
Oh my God.
No, not Doctor Who. The Master.
The Master, yeah, absolutely.
Well, that too.
Yeah, that too.
We did have the Mistress. Was it Mistress or Madam?
Missy.
Yep. Yeah.
I love this notion. I'm rapidly potentially becoming a bit of a team hand here. I'm really enjoying getting their story. I suppose it's because we have had the Defenders story with the single series.
Yeah.
Obviously now coming together, which is awesome. But I'm really intrigued by the hand and its history and how it's interacted with Kunlun and with the Chaste, and now bringing them head to head with the Defenders. And they're totally focused on the Immortal Iron Fist here. They're looking for his chi. And it's kind of an interesting thing, I suppose, that we link into the next point that we have, which we'll come to in a moment. But this is a great origin for the hand here. I think as well, we really have here not only is it Stick explaining the hand, but Jessica leaves this group. She says, "I'm done with this tin hat shit. This war or whatever it is." She goes, "This is not my problem. I just want the answers for my client."
Yeah.
But then she goes to investigate her client, and suddenly starts seeing, in her own way, she doesn't know it's the hand, but she sees that on these transfer deeds that she's gotten from the company records archive, she sees the signatures. Oh, this was a really cool moment, actually, where you see that all the signatures, the first name is a name that begins with the letter A, Angela, Audrey, all the same style of handwriting that Jessica quickly spots it. And these go back as far then as 1820. And as this kind of progresses, the more whiskey she starts downing from the bottle of the Canadian whiskey that's still left there on her desk. I thought this was a really cool sort of separately. She starts to realise that there is something odd and old and ancient going on here in these documents,
but
which has been reflected by Stick then back at the Royal Dragon, talking about the hand to Luke, Danny, and Matt, who've stayed behind. So really cool.
Yeah, it really feels like Jessica Jones is a character that doesn't like exposition being told to her. She's an investigator. She wants to find it out herself. So it feels like even if she was hearing it from Stick, even hearing the stuff from Danny, she truly doesn't believe these things until she makes the discovery herself that the handwriting going back to 1820 is exactly the same. It's Alexandra's handwriting. She makes that discovery herself, and because it's such a weird discovery, she gets plastered on whiskey. I love the moment when she goes back to the architect's wife standing at the door, and she says to her, "Are you drunk?" And she goes, "No. It doesn't matter." It's a great little moment, but it's really coming from, it's not just that she wants to get drunk. It's not, she's not going out partying. It's that she's now discovered something or uncovered something for herself that is so beyond what she thought was possible and so beyond the things that she's accustomed to, that she's just taking solace in the bottle as only Jessica can.
Yeah, and the one thing I just want to put out there to any of our listeners, I couldn't find no Marvel character references or of those names.
None of them, no.
The Angelas and the other thing. I was thinking maybe like the Hellfire Club, or like just maybe there would be some connection to a name. Obviously, the Hellfire Club or Fox, and that's a whole other story. But you know what I mean. I was suspecting there would be some kind of Easter egg.
Like one of the names would be one of, I don't know, one of the leaders of Hydra or something. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
But there was nothing. I could find nothing.
Exactly. So I don't know. I'm wondering if because the name begins with an A for even Alexandra now, and she's chosen so many names, maybe she hasn't chosen one that's from the comics just yet, and maybe she reveals her real name later on in one of the future episodes, and that name is one from the comic books. But yeah, none of these names are from the comics.
Yeah, so with all of this talk of the Hand and the investigation from Jessica Jones, we are introduced to the fifth and final finger of the Hand that is going to do something horrendous to this foursome.
Do you think he's the middle finger?
He could be. Murakami. Oh my god, I love this scene where Alexandra comes to Murakami.
It's so cool, isn't it?
Okay, not particularly fond of him gutting a bear after he's been tracking it, but the character here, I just love the sense of his own confidence. It almost feels as though Alexandra is deferring to a very different kind of relationship than she had with Madame Gao on the park bench. It almost feels as though he, of any of them, would be one that could challenge Alexandra as the leader of the Hand, which we get here. That is really confirmed, you know, when Alexandra is there. I think she says, "I've never once come to you for advice," but at this moment in time, with the band of four that she's confronted at that boardroom, that she's come to him to persuade him to get involved, to get his hands dirty, which he is prepared to do. And he makes a nice little point about her leadership, that maybe one of the things about it that is slightly off for him is that she's never been willing to get her hands dirty and do the rough and tumble of some of the things the Hand need to do. So I am really excited to see more of this character, because he looks total badass. And I love how he's being played by the actor Yutaka Takuchi. It's very quirky. It really reminds me of the Japanese films that I love, and I love that he's brought that element to the series. It's the same with Madame Gao as well. The two of them, to me, seem to really fit together, and as I say, there's something dangerous about Murakami, I think, here, and I think Alexandra also kind of knows that to an extent as well.
And one of the things I really like here with Alexandra and Sigourney Weaver in this role, I love the moment that you mentioned earlier on, John, where she says to Murakami, "I have never once asked for your advice all of these many years," and then goes, "I'm here to ask for you to come with me." So in other words, even now, I'm not asking for your advice, so you can just keep it to yourself, is what it sounds like from Alexandra. It's still very much, while you say he may be a challenger to her as leader, she's still the leader. She will still put him in his place, and she will still tell him that the Hand are now forming in New York, and we need you there. I don't want your opinion about this. So I really like that moment. There's still a lot of strength in Alexandra here, even though he may be a very strong other member of the Hand. He's still just another member, and she is the leader, which I really like.
What I want to talk about is the actual hands, the fingers of the Hand. So, let's start up here. We've got Alexandra. She is the main finger. She is the dominant finger. She is the leader.
She's the middle finger.
Yes. So we already know where Madame Gao is. So she is another member of this finger of the hand.
Yeah.
She also left Kunlun with them, so we've now got her backstory to a degree.
It's very short. Could she should be the little finger of the hand,
She can be the king.
I think so,
She can be
yeah.
the little finger.
and kind of on a Game of Thrones type as well. A little finger.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. She's awesome. I won't hear a bad word said about Madame Gao.
No bad
we are
words here.
crossing like timelines and streams and continuity here.
Uh-huh.
Do you think Game of Thrones is actually in? Is HBO available in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the Netflix Cinematic Universe?
Maybe.
It will be soon. I'm sure it'll get bought by Disney.
Then we have the latest addition that we've just been introduced to.
Murakami.
Murakami. He is, I'm assuming, very direct. The pointing finger. He hides. No, actually, maybe he wouldn't be the pointing finger. He may be the thumb. He's slightly. He usually sends people to do his work for him.
Maybe he
But he's
gives
integral.
Maybe he gives the approval, so he's the thumbs up.
No, he's the opposable thumb. He needs that, otherwise the hand is useless.
Very good.
I love the fact that we find out here as well. I like how, in being introduced to Murakami, I love how it goes back to the Royal Dragon, and you have Stick running through the members of the five fingers of the hand. I think that's a really neat little way of switching the setting and getting the exposition.
You could have had a trope where they were sitting around in a darkened room around a table, or it would have been like TV screens and they're slightly fuzzy. They couldn't quite. You could have silhouetted.
You've just described the board
Shield.
members of S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah.
Oh,
That was already used in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
okay.
trope from S.H.I.E.L.D.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but we turned out Shield was Hydra. It's fine. It's an evil thing to be sitting around a table.
There you go.
There you go.
But as you say, sorry about Murakami, just to make sure it's clear that he is the one that was controlling Nobu. So as you were mentioning, Chris, that he hides in the shadows and had somebody else do his dirty work for him. Nobu was the one that was doing the dirty work for him, and we saw in season 1 and 2 of Daredevil, right?
Yeah, and Stick describes him as the most secretive, but that when he comes out, he's an evil piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I can't wait to see from Murakami.
Yeah, and the stalking of a bear for 10 days.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And fighting, we were assuming bare-handed, most likely, a bear. And like, this is gonna be an interesting one. Then we have Swambe.
The white hat.
Yes.
Affectionately also known as the Whitehead.
The African warlord. Again, this is an interesting thing. As we told that when they are cast, from Kunlun, they each spread to different corners of the world.
Yeah.
So we can now start to imagine that Alexandra went to Europe, Madame Gao went to China, Morambe went to probably Japan. What we got here now is Swambe became an African warlord.
Yes.
So we can see that this is where they all kind of
Yeah,
disappeared to.
And Bakuto was in South America.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that is the final finger of the hand. We now, unfortunately, we know that he is alive from the trailers. We've seen him in the trailers. So I'm assuming that, yes, even though Danny goes, well, I killed him, I'm like, well, did you? Did you, Danny? So I'm assuming this is the final member. We will probably introduce him in the next couple of episodes. He'll be brought back somehow. Maybe similar to Nobu, scarred, brought back to life. Not the same person he was 100% before. So it'll be interesting. But the fact that he is a finger of the hand, we know that these guys are quite tough, quite dangerous.
Yeah.
And live for extremely long time.
Yeah, I love having all the five hand members revealed. I know it's going to cross over into another point we have about Alexandra, but I think it's more important to talk about this one here. Alexandra has a conversation with Electra where she says Electra has seen death and passed through much like her, which is a confirmation again that we know, as we know now, Alexandra's gone through death and come back. But she says to Electra, don't forget who brought us back. So it seems like, I don't know whether that's a reference to one of the other 5 members of the Hand, or whether there is somebody else above these 5 fingers of the Hand.
I'm assuming there will be some Dormammu level, like, demon. I'm looking to you, John, because I'm not sure what is it like.
I was thinking that myself, that when she said that, I mean, that really does start to move it more towards the mystical side of things, so, and I'm not entirely sure. I need to just have a think and look back.
Could there be an anti Xiao Lao the Undying, or like something like Lao Xiao the Dying?
Xiao Lao the party dragon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
he's the dragon that just he's not undying. He just consistently dies. He's just like he kills a room. He walks in. It's just like the mood just dies. There you go.
It's probably the Night King from Game of Thrones is probably back here. But yeah, it certainly sounds more mystical. It could be anything from the Marvel's magical and mystical world. And I mean, certainly with Kunlun, you do have potential members of Kunlun, that would have previously sort of been involved in the darker side of the mystical world. So
could it be the Steel Serpent?
It could be. Looking at how they're using the characters here, they're not afraid to take the name and use it in a different way, and maybe even do a hybrid of characters. So, I mean, it could be the Steel Serpent. There's also Mother Crane as well that could be involved in this in some way.
Yeah.
And there could be Qilin, who tries to kill all the Iron Fists, when they reach a certain age, in order to reclaim Xiao Lao's life force. And I think that's interesting in the context of Alexandra and Murakami's meeting, where she says the resources of the Hand are becoming severely depleted. They're obviously after the Iron Fist. They want to take him alive. But is that ultimately to kill him by draining him of his chi? And that's the resource that she's talking about within that conversation, that they need more of the chi for it to be corrupted in order for them to regenerate. Because, we hear from Stick in this episode that whilst the monks of Kunlun were trying to use the chi as a life force, that the 5 heretics wanted to use it for their own selfish purposes of pure personal regeneration. So it could be that the Qilin does take the life force out, and maybe that's what the Hand has, and maybe that's who is the other person on the other side who brings Electra and Alexandra and anyone else who goes through that process back. So ultimately there could be some kind of interweaving of that within here, because, I think the great thing about this is that they've absolutely linked the Hand to Kunlun and that whole world.
Yeah.
So, at the moment, that would be the kind of theory that I would have, definitely.
I like it. So it could be the Qilin. Very cool. I wonder if the Qilin is behind that door that was down the hole that they're trying to get Iron Fist to break open. Maybe that's what's trapped behind there, potentially.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, let's...
Or it could just be a portal back to Kunlun.
Perhaps, yeah. Let's see what happens in the future episodes. I think that's it about the Hand for the moment. So we'll go on to our final point, on point 5, which is Alexandra's meeting with the Defenders. Quite a cool little moment here, as she appears out of the darkness, just like Batman or Elektra.
Absolutely. Can I just say as well, before we talk about it actually in The Royal Dragon, is that moment where she's kind of getting herself ready with her 2 helpers in order seemingly just to go for a night out, and then she cuts it short and she falters with the pain in her side, and obviously has to take the pills. I really kind of like this this weakness or this vulnerability that Alexandra shows, but only in private to herself. And I love the reflections of her in the mirrors, the standing mirror, and then in the hand mirror, sort of in that kind of real whitened tone to the shots of her. I think it's really, really cool. And I suppose the main thing is because that is shown to be so private is, and it kind of comes back to the point with Murakami is, do the others know that she actually is dying here? Because if they do, would that mean possibly that Murakami would challenge her to become the new leader?
Yeah.
Like, it's really interesting here as well. And again, if the resource is depleted, and this is about them being able to regenerate, then the Hand are quite vulnerable at this moment as well, despite the projection of strength.
Well, it feels like she's taken the last spin of the dice on bringing back the Black Sky, which was her choice. There's a lot of criticism from Murakami saying, oh, you're very powerful now with Black Sky standing at your side. So it feels like this wasn't something that the rest of them would agree with, because effectively, if they've gotten rid of all of the resources that have been bringing them all back to life every time they die, and she's just used them all on somebody else to bring them back to life, well, that was her decision, and that's something that obviously would go against what all of the rest of them want. So yeah, I can see a big challenge here to Alexandra, especially if they found out that she will be coming close to another end soon, potentially.
Yeah.
And what do they do then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is all in the world of theory at the moment. We need to see how the other episodes progress. But back to Alexandra, crashing the banquet. I really thought this was cool. I think Alexandra, I just love how she projects her power, and as she says herself, her determination onto the others. Like, I was just there, she was walking around this restaurant. Any of the defenders, as well as Stick, could have tried something, and they didn't. But she's also very touchy with Danny Rand. She holds him by the arms, sort of soothing. Like, she's a real smooth operator with regards to how she tries to persuade you to come along. And I love the bargaining that she does here, where it's like, we serve life itself. You get the immediate knockback from Luke, though, that just really undercuts her whole kind of presence, that for someone who talks a lot about life, you sure kill a lot of people.
Absolutely.
She is so classy. It's really, really cool.
But she doesn't understand Danny at all. It's really like, if you don't come with us, Danny, we'll destroy the city. If you do come with us, we won't, and we might leave these people alive. Like, Danny's a hero at the end of the day. He's met these people, he likes these people, and she's effectively saying, if you come with us, we'll still probably kill the people that have become your friends. Like, that's not going to be something that Danny will go along with at all.
No, not at all.
I can kind of see how this is going to play out, in that, well, I agree with John, right? It's the power she emanates from just walking, like, it's a presence.
Yeah.
And again, like, I'm trying to consider, I don't know anyone who could do this role without, like, Sigourney Weaver. Like, she is a AAA caliber kind of actress, a resource.
And she's been getting so many of these kind of great roles over the last couple of years, these villain roles, and she's so good at them. In the past, she'd always been like a sci-fi hero character for many, many years, and everything from obviously Aliens to Avatar, everything in the A's. And now she's getting a lot of these villain roles in the background and things like Cabin in the Woods and in...
See? Now she's into the D's. See? She's into the D's. Yeah, okay.
And then in other films like Paul and that kind of stuff, she's had a villainous role in some of these films. So it's great to see her as a villain in this series. She's a great actress, always been really strong in the films that she's done over the course of the 80s and 90s and all the way through. And now getting a chance to play a villain on this series, she's a standout for me in this series.
Yeah, agreeing with both of you from both sides. I think what interested me here was, why didn't they make a move? Like,
it's interesting, isn't it? I did think that there's a moment, like, the the camera is really well handled here, but there's a moment where you kind of have Danny fuzzed out in the foreground. Alexandra is speaking to him in the middle, but behind her, fuzzed out and blurred out, is Stick.
Yeah.
And it's a great shot. And he's not doing anything, and I'm there kind of thinking, wouldn't he do that? You know what? And I kind of was thinking, surely he would try something as sort of a last gamble, but you know, we've seen her take down Elektra, so we know she's got the moves as well.
True.
She just really is quite restrained with using them. But I'm sure that she would whip them out as soon as she was under threat, and so maybe she can sense Stick. You know, they know one another, so that was really cool. But it just shows her confidence as to how she can maybe judge or assess the situation. But definitely, Chris, you know, why none of them did, because she even walks up to Luke as well, and obviously as you would, check him up and down. Really interesting kind of scene, I think, from that point of view.
Yeah, well, I think there's a reason. You don't take a chance on trying to kill someone if you don't know you're going to be able to kill them, especially somebody as powerful as Alexandra has proven to be. So if there's a possibility that Stick could kill her, and she kills Stick immediately and wipes him out, well, then he's gone. So maybe this wasn't the right opportunity for him. Stick can read a situation better than most, so maybe it wasn't the right opportunity for them to kill her. It's also a hugely interesting story. So if this had happened and, you know, I don't know, Luke punches her through a wall halfway through explaining what their plan was, well, then he never really knows why he was there. You know, it's a good moment to resist killing someone if you can find out what the plan is for a couple more seconds. Maybe they wait too long, and that's why Elektra walking through the door surprises them all.
Plus, if Luke punch her through a wall and kill her, that's a pretty short Defenders season.
It is, yes.
Yeah, it's like 4 episodes, we're done. That's the end. Bye.
Yeah.
Let's all go separate ways.
We definitely see as well protective Luke here against Alexandra for Danny as well, where, you know, Danny is almost, I think, contemplating it here, because she's saying you can save a lot of people. You know, the last time the 5 fingers of the hand came together, Stick, you know what happened, you know, so this great culling. And I think there is a sort of a moment there where Danny is considering this.
Maybe.
But Luke just pulls him back from the edge there. And that's when she realizes, okay, plan A is gone.
Yeah.
And then in comes Elektra. She arrives.
I think for me, I don't think Danny's contemplating it. I think Luke's just taking it off the table. He's kind of saying it's not even your choice. We are not going to let you do it. Stick even says that. He's like, if you do this and I have the opportunity, I'll kill you myself.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, don't even think about it, Danny. It's off the table. This isn't going to happen regardless of what she tells you. But yes, the arrival of Elektra in her brand new crimson red outfit that she is covering up with a very long, very cool hooded coat. Everybody's got hoods in this show. It's awesome.
Black Widow.
It's very cool. But yes, the comic book, the Elektra assassin outfit is as close as we're ever really going to get it in any of the TV shows, I presume, in any of the character versions of Elektra, and it's cool as hell.
And it's the most comic accurate, like, of all the costumes.
Pretty much, yeah. The only thing she's missing is the headscarf, the red headscarf. Really, it's cool as hell. I'm presuming, yeah, it's not a very practical costume, as most comic book costumes are not practical in the real world, so it did have to have a little bit of changes, and I can totally understand on a dark night in New York why you wouldn't want to walk out in it, even if you have your swords by your side. So I understand why she put on a coat over the top of it, but it is cool as hell.
Are you telling me skin-tight lycra is not practical as a battle aid?
Well, none of the men wear it, so I presume it's not practical at all. Yeah, they mostly wear armor.
Hey, no. If we think back to original Captain America, that was just like, that was cotton blend, polyester probably based.
Yeah, but that was because he was on TV and he was going on tour. When he started fighting, he started putting on a helmet and armor. Yeah,
I think the preference for skin tight, revealing Ned Flanders-esque sort of ski jumpsuits has gradually faded from the Marvel Universe. Yes. I get your point, though. And it's now more about that, you have to stop bullets and maybe revealing outfits don't.
Exactly. It's function over form on this.
Definitely.
And but I would have liked to see maybe like when she was training or at some point a comic accurate, like I'm not talking the leotard kind of with just the headband and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm talking maybe some form of robes that looks like that or something. I just thought that would have been cool, but I like this outfit. It is the MCU Netflix version of Daredevil's outfit for Elektra.
Yeah, and I know we got a moment where she took out two of Sawanda's right hand men when he came in to say, "Why don't you just go out in the battlefield?" Effectively, I know we got that moment, but I know what you mean. I'd love to see a training montage or something with her in the comic outfit, because she doesn't seem very happy wearing it outside.
No. So all you need is a montage.
Very
Montage.
Cool.
But we have then the moment where, we've had Alexandra crash the banquet, but Jessica literally does crash the banquet with a 4-wheel drive, hitting Elektra. And again, just the snappy one-liners, "Who missed me?" And then we get that awesome goosebumpy scene that just is fantastic.
Mostly driven by the music, though, isn't it? Because I love how they do this. This is a really good technique. They use it in a lot of films and stuff like Avengers as well, where you bring together the themes of multiple characters. In this show, it's the main title themes, which we talked about a couple episodes ago. It's so cool, but it's those with the brass dropped out effectively, and then as Jessica arrives and stands side by side with the boys saying, "Who missed me?" they rise, and then you go to your credits. It's like a big hero moment. It is the Avengers moment, just inside in a Chinese restaurant rather than outside in the streets of New York.
Or perhaps like the Avengers in Age of Ultron, jumping in the snow-covered Sokovia.
Yeah.
It was that lineup shot is always fantastic.
Right.
The bit I did like was that's the same Jeep from the guy sitting outside the client's.
Yeah.
The guy is crumpled on the ground if you look very carefully. Like she's thrown him and put him on the pavement and then kicked the car through the door.
Yeah, very cool. Although I did notice the car had minimal damage considering it had just gone through a front window.
Well, it's just a window and a bit of wood, I'm assuming, on this. Like, they don't build the buildings in
New York like they used to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I thought there would be a bit more damage.
Remember, this is a 4-wheel drive that's made to carry city moms and their one child to school every morning on the school run. It has to be able to protect in case they run through, a bank wall or, anything like that, just to keep them safe.
Exactly.
It's not an anti-tank 4-wheel drive.
It could be.
Go on the school run some morning. You'll see how someone drive it as an anti-tank.
Still, irrespective of this was the money shot. Them all lined up. Matt with his fists, Danny with his chi, Jessica kind of just there ready, and Luke again with his fists as well.
And Stick looking like Paul Weller.
Yeah.
I thought it was Paul Weller.
And a great ending to the episode as well.
Speaking of which, any notes on the episode?
Yes, I have 2.
John?
2 points from the episode. I really enjoyed Elektra looking into the mirror at her wounds. I don't know whether she was just checking out her former wounds that she had on her body, or by doing so she was contemplating her existence to some extent. She had this kind of look on her that suggested she was trying to just think more about where they were from or what she was about. There was something interesting in Elektra's expression here before she gets that pep talk from Alexandra. Yeah. It's like, she's been talked about by Stick in this, that, she's a vessel and this person is not Elektra who you used to know when he's talking to Matt in the Chinese restaurant. But there's something here that is interesting about whether there is some form of memory coming back.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly what it is. She's trying to piece together her history. These are the wounds that killed her, I believe, from the hand in season 2 of Daredevil. Those are the marks that were left after that, after she was murdered by the hand ninjas in
Yep.
season 2. So the fact that she's looking at these and Alexandra is saying to her, I wish I'd been able to give you a fresh body and take away all of your previous wounds. These wounds are very specific. They're the ones that caused her death. So it's like, I don't know, it's like looking when you've had your head reattached. It's like looking at those marks around your neck or something, you know. It's almost like that.
How many people do you know that's happened to?
Only me.
Okay.
You mean like Frankenstein?
Yeah.
Yeah, the stitch work.
I didn't see any bolts coming out of it.
Not yet.
And what's your other note, John?
And the other one, it's just a visual thing, actually. Charlie Cox and what he's doing with Matt Murdock and the expressions he gets on his face, I think is incredible. I think the moment where Elektra walks into the Royal Dragon and you see it's like he's straining to get a read on who's just come in and trying to just really confirm that this is Elektra or isn't it? And just the way he does that is great. But I think the best part about that whole moment was that he gets interrupted as Alexandra walks past him. You see her in the background walking past, and his expression changes again as he acknowledges her presence as she walks from behind him and past him. And that is, to me, like top quality acting. It really is, because the change that he did is like suddenly he's interrupted and he's looking round and then he fixes on Alexandra walking past. I thought that was phenomenal little scene, and I just had to call that out because I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, at the end of the notes, I think it's time to see if we defend this episode. Don't think it's going to be a huge surprise, to be honest. Chris, do you defend the 4th episode of The Defenders, Royal Dragon?
No.
John, do you defend...
Yes, of course I do. This is the culmination, and I'm saying this every episode, and I can't kind of get into it anymore, in that this is culmination of 5 series. This is everything that we wanted, and we're getting those money shots, as John calls them, like the standard like superhero standing like facing the other direction right off screen, and you're just looking at the left hand side of their face, right hand side of the face, excuse me. It's fantastic, and this is what we wanted. The Jessica going off and deciding that she has to come back, like Luke's quippy piece to Alexandra, Stick's performance, and Stick's soliloquy in who the Hand are, answering questions we've had since Madame Gao turned up. It's like, oh, is she Mother Crate, not Mother Crate? All these questions, and then just the overall, like, doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel too slow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the pacing is correct. The overall time of the episodes is correct. Which is strange because that's 50 minutes in comparison to some of the other 59 hour 101 kind of that we were getting with some of the other series.
Yeah.
It's tight. It is a really tightly produced, well written show. And this 4th episode, we're halfway through the season. All I want to do is binge and get to the next episode. But since our overlord makes sure that we record our episodes correctly, I must be here. So I'm going to shut up now and ask John, do you defend this episode of The Defenders?
I do defend this episode of The Defenders. I'm giving this 4.5 shirred Chinese dumplings out of 5.
Aww.
I think so. Seeing the Defenders together in this single place, almost like a stage play, sort of fighting out their own personalities, listening to one another, and then finally coming together against Alexandra and Elektra in the Royal Dragon. It is really, really cool, and I think that final shot is worth absolutely everything with the music. Them standing together to fight is just phenomenal for me. It's everything I hoped would happen, that they would get some kind of shot and situation like that. And you know, with it being the Marvel Netflix TV and not the cinematic universe, it was great that it was in the Royal Dragon. It's you know, it was epic, yet the right side of epic to feel street level. So I really, really thought that was cool. And to have the fifth finger with Murakami and some background on the hand from Stick as well was really, really cool. Getting a bit more information from them. We've still got to see what's down that hole, that gateway made by the monks of Kunlun, and I can't wait till we see that. But really great getting a rundown of Gao, Bakuto, Sowande, and Murakami, and of course having Stick back, which just really, you know, he throws his stick in here as well. You know, disrupts Matt Murdock. I love that sort of reconnection and real tense relationship that Stick and Matt have as well. So yeah, absolutely defend this episode. It really is getting very good, this series, and I can't wait for episode 5. So, Derek, our overlord, do you defend this episode of The Defenders?
I absolutely loved this episode of Defenders. Yeah, this is exactly, again, I kind of said it before, this is exactly the type of series I was looking for. But you put these 4 characters in a room, give them an opportunity to breathe and talk with each other while eating dinner around a table. You know, it's a great scene. So well shot as well. The moving camera all the way around, focusing on each of the characters as they're speaking with their own coloured light in the background to define their kind of own zone or their own specific area, I thought was a cool idea. I love the interaction between Luke and Jessica at the start, Jessica and Matt. Finally getting Danny and Luke on the right side and in the right place was just so cool. Really, really enjoyed it. It almost felt, I know we've said stage play, but it almost felt like Reservoir Dogs to me, this kind of idea of them being trapped in a room together, all very powerful people in their own right and all wanting to escape from each other but kind of being bound together in there. Very, very cool. Really, really enjoyed it. So totally defend it. And I will say, this is the last of our preview episodes that we got from Netflix, so a huge thank you to Netflix for those once again. We'll be able to get on and watch the next episode on Netflix. So I haven't been that bad as an overlord.
No, you haven't. Not at all. You're a gentle, paternal overlord.
Like Matt.
But speaking of Quentin Tarantino as well, Stick has a really interesting thing that he says about Sowande, actually, where he talks about he can slow your heart until it stops. And we were wondering whether this was like the 5-point palm exploding heart that you see in Kill Bill, and whether Sowande has got that move up his sleeve. So, yeah, interesting.
Like a real mystical kind of power, yeah. It's going to be kind of cool to see that, yeah.
But, yeah, that was probably my third note. But I think with that, it's on to some feedback.
So lots of love for episode 4 of The Defenders, where all of our regular Defenders get to meet up and get together. First up, we got Ronaldo with a couple of voicemails.
Hi guys, just wanted to talk about episode 4, the prologue just before the opening credits. I just loved how the 4 of them, as they rush into the restaurant, are still very wary of each other. In particular, they seem to be wary of Daredevil because he's got the mask on. But I loved the fact that Matt had this sense of relief of knowing that someone else was handling the hand as well. So when Danny says that he's been fighting the hand, immediately, I guess that lone wolf mentality from Daredevil is gone, because he's kind of like, well, okay, there's someone else that's dealing with him too. I loved also the interaction between Jessica and Luke, seeing them talk to each other after such a long time apart, but also Jessica and Matt as well. And I loved how she kind of convinced him to unmask himself. Anyway, it's just the opening scene, but really, really entertaining stuff. So I'm going to go and watch the rest of it. Thanks, guys.
Really interesting point about Matt kind of dropping his guard a bit when he realizes that Iron Fist is also a member of the fight against the Hand.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a really good scene. You know, it really gets you to see all the defenders sort of bouncing off one another, sort of the people that they gel to, and also then, like, as you say, Ronaldo, the way they're kind of worry or maybe slightly distrustful of other members. And yeah, absolutely, Daredevil is the one that stands out there just because he is the one that's masked. He has Jessica's scarf over his head. Yeah, really great little stage play. I think I said this in the podcast, of them all in one room together, having to work through all the crap that they're having to deal with, both from the hand, but also between themselves. So yeah, really enjoyed this concept for the show, definitely. Yeah.
And another one from Ronaldo about episode 4 as well.
Hi guys, just some notes about episode 4 after watching it again. I reckon a fantastic episode. I think it was pretty much owned by Kristen Ritter. Jessica Jones was just great in it. I wasn't expecting her to be that effective in the show, but she really does steal a lot of the limelight. Also liked Matt's tortured kind of perspective on things and how he and Stick have a secret by knowing Elektra. Also, the reveal of the history and all the 5 members of the Hand now was pretty good to see. And finally, the confrontation with Alexandra at the end was quite chilling, actually. So even when she approaches Luke, you're kind of scared for Luke as well. So that's kind of how powerful a performance Sigourney Weaver is putting in. Overall, a really cool episode, and maybe just some quick notes at the end.
Yeah, thank you, Ronaldo. Yeah, I absolutely loved this episode for having the Hand backstory as well as every one of the defenders coming together. It was, you know, the two sides of the same coin almost. It's almost like Harvey Dent in that sense with regards to the defenders, the good and the evil. But I mean, I think what makes it even more interesting is that, you know, Alexandra, she's cool, she's calm, she's calculated, but she packs a huge threatening punch really, by her just normalcy, her normalness that she has really here. And I think that is a really cool way of doing it, definitely.
Absolutely. Final voicemail from Ronaldo about episode 4.
So just some quick footnotes to episode 4. Number 1, Murakami's bear, Moon Bear. I actually thought that was a little weird. The bear to me looked a little small, but I did some wiki research and there's apparently some history with moon bears and the Japanese. So I guess that's where the tie lies. Also, Stick mentions that he's the last of the chase, but I wonder what's happened to Stone. We saw him in episode 7 of Daredevil season 1, so I'm not sure if he's still in the picture or not. I liked Jessica Jones's quips when she fights that guy on the street saying, am I the only one left that doesn't know karate? I thought that was pretty cool. And definitely the scene between Luke and Danny while Danny's eating his dim sums was pretty cool, and I love how that's developing. So pretty cool. And finally, yeah, just the big woo moment at the end when Jessica drives in. That got me cheering and gave me some chills as well. So all up, a fantastic episode. Catch you guys.
Yeah, Jessica is an absolute standout in this episode. She's got
Definitely.
some great moments. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. That's really interesting about the Moon Bear. Well done for the research.
Yeah, and also I know that just having some of the chats over and off Facebook, that one of our listeners is mentioned that the gallbladder of this bear is certainly prized, as well as its liver, for sort of that traditional Asian medicine as well. So I wonder if there's an element of that about it, as much as Murakami enjoying the fight and near-death experience, that he seems to enjoy that kind of living on the edge, definitely. But yeah, this is a really cool episode. I completely agree with you, Ronaldo. Yeah.
And thanks so much for the voicemail feedback. If you want to send us voicemail feedback, just go to our website at defenderstvpodcast.com. There's a send voicemail button on the right-hand side of the screen where you can record up to 90 seconds of your thoughts, or do what Ronaldo did and just send us in a couple of voicemails, up to 90 seconds each. That's no problem at all. Really good to hear from you, Ronaldo.
Yeah, thanks, Ronaldo.
And speaking of our Facebook group, we have some Facebook feedback as well. As I said, lots of love for this episode.
Yeah, Lisa Richardson says, Jessica and Luke still have so much chemistry. I also finally see the appeal of the Iron Fist Luke Cage team up. Good chemistry there too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It was really good to see Jessica and Luke reconnect here. And as well to see Iron Fist and Luke Cage connect for the first time over that dumpling sharing. Yeah, really good. Enjoying that potential for a Heroes for Hire team up there as well. Come on, Netflix. You know, it's a great little spin-off that could be had here.
Absolutely. As I said, the cutest moments so far in the series. Michael Booth says, that scene outside was great. I especially liked how their colours were opposite. When Jess was talking, she was lit with a yellow light and Luke was cast in blue. Trying to decide if it was to keep the presence of the other person in a single focus shot or it's more symbolic than that. Yeah, really interesting that the colours flipped. We talked a lot about the colours in this episode and in some of the earlier episodes. Quite cool that they switched it around when Jessica and Luke were having their conversation outside.
Yeah, Jeff Childs says, I'm amazed how character-driven this is. The writers really have a handle on everyone. And how can you end the episode there? What a cliffhanger. Yeah, this is really shaping up to be fantastic from each four defenders in terms of their story, their background, and them coming together. I've been really impressed with how they've handled it, and certainly can't wait for episode 5.
Yeah, definitely. David Wang says, I just realised that having Danny's first showdown with Elektra be in Cambodia is most likely a covert nod to Elodie Young's country of birth. Nice catch, David. That's very cool.
That is very cool. Nice catch indeed, David. Yeah, love that. Salim Akizla says, putting a prediction on the board. Elektra taking the size off the weapons rack will signify that she's remembered her identity. Yeah, they really are focusing in on those weapons, the size, when Elektra is in kind of her weapons chamber. And I'm just wondering, that must help her remember her previous identity as Elektra, and I wonder if there's going to be any significance to those weapons later on in the series. It'll be really interesting to see her pick those up and use them. So it'll be a question of who on earth is she going to use them on.
Yeah, I totally understand, Celine. This seems like when she catches them in the corner of her eye, they really remind her of her past, which is quite cool. Nice little touch point there. Robert Phillips says, first up, congratulations to Five Fingers Chris on naming the evil. Nice. It's probably like our discussion of which one's the index finger and which one's the little finger in this episode as well, Robert. He goes on to say, more things for me about episode 4, opening with all 4 shades in the neon on the Royal Dragon sign. Nicely done. The other thing carried on, the sodium yellow streetlights, but a purplish cast on the faces of Luke and Jessica in the back alley, points of colour around the communal table, and the stark black and white bathroom and taxidermy workshop with Alexandra. Particularly enjoyed the grounded rejection of all things mystical, despite owning superpowers and knowing the incident happened, by Jessica Jones and Luke. The line, let me know when they fit you up for a costume, summarised that beautifully, but even the hard-boiled can be won over with cold, hard proof, it seems. Other thing I noticed, Elektra's trident short swords, the size, may not have been an Easter egg, but more of a Chekhov's dagger, dropped into Act 1, but a vital prop in making Black Sky regain her chaste origin. And, sorry, I really loved this episode. Could Stick have picked a worse approach to getting JJ on side than commanding her to sit down? So glad she just gave him the finger, attitudinally, and walked off.
Yeah, Jessica Jones, again, as you say, Robert, and Ronaldo pointed this out as well, such a big influence in this episode, almost mirroring, I think, to an extent, maybe the audience of, they don't want to be in that situation, or, members of the audience watching the series who would be like, no, I don't believe any of this stuff. Like, she really has it from so many different angles, whether it's to do with the mystical aspects, whether it's to do with the fairly disciplined, sort of rule-orientated approach by Stick, or whether it's just calling people out for a lot of bullshit. Really good. Thanks, Robert. Another one from David Wang as well. I absolutely loved the conversation between Alexandra and Murakami, how it implies their fluency in each other's languages, but also their stances if standing their own ground by using their own language. Yeah, I think that's a really good view of that conversation, a really deep kind of insight into their own pride and confidence in themselves. And I think it really emphasizes the strength of these characters. I think that's a really nice little view on that conversation, yeah.
Excellent, yeah. Nice catch as well, David.
Claire Payne goes on, I really love Luke and Danny's conversation about how much food Danny eats. So funny. Also, a really great line from Jessica about being the only one who doesn't know karate. Yeah, absolutely. Jessica's one-liners are really good now. Loving every one of them. I'm waiting each episode to hear what little cutback she has to one of the other members of the Defenders. I'm wondering whether she will slowly warm and melt to all three of them as well. And yeah, the Luke and Danny conversation was really good, obviously really funny, but also leading to the lovely dumpling sharing.
Absolutely. Do you know how much food it takes me to regenerate my chi? I love it. Excellent. Finally, Tina Brown says, I loved Danny's bewilderment that Matt might be a blind lawyer, daredevil, and a member of the Chase. To talk about multitasking, he could barely manage the tie. I love how proud he is that he's wearing the tie. That's why he was going for the business approach, saying that look, I even put on a tie. It's
yeah,
brilliant.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tina.
And thanks to everybody else for your feedback over on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV podcast. We have a spoiler post up for each of the episodes that we've watched so far, and more spoiler posts will be going up as we release more episodes and as we watch more episodes. Just pop in there and leave your thoughts on each of the episodes coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for all your feedback. It is really, really appreciated. Thank you. Remember to subscribe to Defenders TV Podcast over at iTunes. Just go to defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes. Please share the love and write a review whilst you're there. Subscribe, share, and let us know what you think. And of course, any other good podcast catcher, just search Defenders TV podcast. And of course, come on over, as we said earlier in the podcast, over to our Facebook group, join in the Defenders community, chat, discuss, share your art, share your thoughts or anything about this first season of the Defenders, or any of your favorite Defenders, whether it be Jessica, Matt, Luke, or Danny, over on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV podcast. And of course, we're on Twitter as well. Can't leave off the old Twitter. We're at Defenders Cast over on Twitter. So tweet away, my dear tweeters.
Absolutely. We want to hear as much of your feedback as possible towards the rest of this series. We're halfway through already. Only 4 more episodes to go, so make sure you send us some voicemails in over at defenderstvpodcast.com. You'll see a send voicemail button. Just click the button there and record 90 seconds of your feedback about any of the episodes that we've got left to go, or in the episodes we've already covered. We'll talk about it on the podcast. Or you can email us to feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com.
And with that, guys, I think it's time that we get on with it, because I want to see this epic ass showdown. This is what it is. Before we leave, I just want to ask and thank all of our listeners who have shared, rated, reviewed, as John said. But obviously the Defenders is fresh out, so please, if you enjoy the show, not just our podcast, but if you enjoy the Defenders, tell your friends about them. Get the more viewers we get through Netflix, the obviously more the more shows we will get in this Marvel Cinematic Netflix universe.
Absolutely.
So please tell everyone, make sure you watch it, make sure you thumbs up it on Netflix as well. And while you're at it, might as well tell them about us too.
Yep, and of course, before you leave us to head on to our episode 5 review that we will be recording soon. Of course, there is the competition for a bunch of Defenders related stuff. Just send in feedback through any of the channels to us, and you will be in with a chance to win some of the Defenders goodies from the prize draw. We will be out again with our 5th episode review of the Defenders next week. So yeah, as always, thank you so much for listening, and we will speak with you again next time.
Thanks so much, fellow Defenders. We'll talk to you next time.
Yes, thank you very much for listening, and from all of us here in the Defenders TV podcast, ta-ta for now.
Bye.
You think I'm holding
Well, okay, so this is not the hand of the comic books, and I'm fine with that. This is not the cast.
That's a mix of the chaste and cast for our listeners.
Oops.
Yeah, no.
This is going to get confusing. This is not the cast. Or the chaste. Oh my god, this is okay. I'm just going to call them cast, guys. I can't get it out of my head.